look at all that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp.
Yes, it is. It is time for hemp. I am your host, Casper Leach, and my joint host, Al Graham, and Al Byrne and I are going to be letting you know all the important things about cannabis hemp today. Don't forget, anytime you hear the word joint on the big broadcast, we want you to fire up your bongs, your pipes, your vaporizers, and take time for hemp. Today's focus is going to be on medical cannabis. And before we get too far into the program, please, if you get a chance, hit the like and share button below and share us with your friends and let everybody know that cannabis is a wonderful thing to utilize, even if you're utilizing it for nothing more than just medication. And I say just medication because this plant can do so much more. Isn't that right, Al Graham?
It sure is, Casper. It sure is. There's no doubt about that. You know, I read Jack's book, 50,000 uses for cannabis.
Absolutely. And you talk about it on a program up there in Canada, don't you?
Yes, correct. The PACE Network, People Advocating Cannabis Education is what PACE stands for. We broadcast 7 days a week.
And we've also got an author on the program who's also a joint host on the big broadcast, and his name is Al Byrne. Hey, Al, how you doing?
Yes, I have a book. It's called For Country and Cannabis. Of course, it's an excellent book. It is a book. It's 360 pages long. It's a lot about history of medical cannabis. Thank you, Casper. It's a history of medical cannabis. How did medical cannabis come to the United States, to Canada, to Europe? Who did it? Who were those people, and how did they bring it to the fact now that we have cannabis in the pharmacopoeia of something like 30 countries around the world? So that's what the book is. Now, along the way, I ran some conferences about medical cannabis. You probably heard about it, Patients Out of Time, and I think it was back in 2004 or 2006, there was a morning break in a conference, and I was still up on the podium. That was my thing. I did moderator. And a beautiful young lady came up to me and thanked me for my work and said, I think I'm going to do something with this into the future. And we shook hands and had a little chat, and she left. Well, she's back. Yep. We have our guest tonight. Again, I've known her for some 18 years or 16, a long time, and we're not buddies, but I've admired her work, and her work has taken us to the top of medical cannabis education. And we're going to find out a lot about that. The other thing, but I'm gonna have a leading question for her that she's prepared for, but you're not. Anyway, let me introduce Dr. Nique. Now this is French. Now wait a minute. Don't help me. Don't help me. I don't want to do this. Per shot. Was I close? Just close. Hi, Nick. How are you?
Good, thank you. It's great seeing you again.
It is, and we're so happy to have you here. And I know you've just met these guys, and so I have a leading question. This stuff above your right shoulder, in the picture,
Yes.
What is that? What is that?
So I had a very good friend from elementary and middle school who I grew up with, and he used to draw caricatures. It was just something that he used to do, and he was a huge advocate of cannabis as well, and struggled a lot with anxiety and such, and cartooning and characters were part of his passion. And last year, he did this on my ceiling in my office for me. And unfortunately, a couple of months ago, he just passed away. So this ceiling means an awful lot to me now, and even more so than before. And I do a lot of work with perception. Cannabis has brought a lot of perception to my life in overcoming anxiety and toxic behaviors. And this is a focal piece in my office because if anybody sits in here, it's a great conversational piece because each face, each depiction of an emotion has a different interpretation, perception, and meaning to anyone that comes in here.
Well, that's great. Your friend left you a gift. We're sorry for the loss. We certainly know we've all lost, and it never goes away. We get that. All right. Well, let me take you back to a happier time.
Yes.
Yes, this lady was a U.S. Marine. Tell us about that. Why did you must have been young. How did that all go down?
I actually joined the Marine Corps when I was 21 years old. My dad was a United States Air Force veteran. He was a nose gunner in World War II and Korea and flew 35 missions with his brother in the same plane, the Worry Bird.
Wow.
I have two older brothers, and my dad, who was a very kind soul, was also a very strong male chauvinist. And after his military career was a contractor and would not hire me because I was a girl. So I left nursing school and I worked for another construction company, and I did work with them for a year, and he still wouldn't hire me. So I thought if I went into the Marine Corps and showed him I was just as strong as his boys, he would then allow me to be part of his company. So I went into boot camp and became a Marine. I was supposed to be a military police, but I wanted to go in sooner than the delayed entry program would allow. So I entered in open contract and went into boot camp and did my 13 weeks in Paris Island and ended up falling into electronics and was a teletype computer technician.
Wow.
So that was my background of why. And it still didn't get me into my dad's construction company.
You should have gone to the Seabees, Nick.
Unfortunately, at that time, they weren't accepting women.
So when did you first discover cannabis?
Yeah.
I first discovered cannabis actually in high school, and I didn't like it.
You didn't like it? Wait a minute. Were you eating it or were you smoking it?
I was smoking it, and I was one of the ones. And you
didn't like it?
No, unfortunately, I was one of the minority who get very paranoid from cannabis, something that not a lot of people like to talk about. So it wasn't a benefit to me when I first started using it.
Are you an alien life form?
I think so. Some have said such.
But it sounds like even though that was something that bothered you, you obviously became an expert at it.
Yes. So in 2011, I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I had a total left mastectomy. And through the medical testing, they felt that I did not need chemo or radiation, and that I had maybe a 16% chance that my breast cancer would return. Fast forward 18 months later, my breast cancer did return. And in that, I had to go through chemotherapy and radiation. And unbeknownst to me, I was allergic to the antiemetics, which is the nausea medication. to help me get through my chemotherapy. And at the same time, I actually started writing a blog on Facebook. And at that time, it was called Breast Cancer and Me. And it was just a nursing open journal of a nurse's journey with their second time and their second battle with breast cancer as a patient, what that felt like, and the emotions and the physical and spiritual, all of the combinations of feelings and thoughts and physical side effects that go along with a cancer diagnosis. That's where people started following my blog and started saying, you need to try cannabis. So that was when I was 45. So 16 was the first time I tried cannabis. So fast forward decades later, now I was in a predicament because I was also a director of nursing operations at an assisted living community. I was living in Rhode Island, but also for a nurse to use cannabis, I was potentially in a situation where I could have lost my nursing license.
Wow.
Yeah. So at that time, you were an RN, a registered nurse?
Yes, at that time I was a registered nurse. I did have my master's degree, and I let the administrator at the assisted living know that at 111 pounds and I was emaciated and I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, that I was going to go through the legal process and get my medical card and become a medical patient because I was in a medical state.
Great.
And she said, you know, thank you for letting me know, but if you're going to be on the news or anything, please make sure that you tell us. So, you know, again, because it would bring potential negativity to the facility that I was then running.
I get you. But what I'm curious about now, as a nurse, as an RN, you had patients and experience on different wards. I'm sure you go through everything. Had you seen cannabis being used therapeutically in your nursing experience?
So up until this time, not really. It wasn't really discussed, and it sure wasn't allowed in nursing homes, on psychiatric units, in the assisted living. It was something that was not discussed in my career. And this month, I've been a nurse for 30 years. So it was not discussed. So I wasn't informed or educated about cannabis as medicine until I reached out on the web and started to learn more about it. And it was actually a man, his name is Steve Placek from Pennsylvania, who actually was the one who kept sending me articles and peer review and said, look, you have to try cannabis, I'm telling you. And finally, after all of his perseverance, I reached out to him and said, okay, please tell me how I do this legally. Please tell me the steps I need to take. And he guided me through the process, navigated me through the process to make the right connections in Rhode Island to get my medical card and to get on a medical program, to then have a caregiver and a dispensary. Because at that time, we're talking 2013, 14. So I needed my medical card, and in the state of Rhode Island, I could have a caregiver and I could have a dispensary. So I was allowed to have both. And so that's how I started to get involved. And then once I started to share my journey with cannabis at the assisted living, then I had family members and some of my elder patients asking me about cannabis as treatment for them.
They say that when you become a patient and you see the benefits of cannabis, that you cannot be quiet, that you have to share everything with everybody. And that's how you educate other people in the process.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, you mentioned 30 years prior to all that you had problems smoking the cannabis. So when you became um, registered with the dispensary and stuff and got your license, did you try the cannabis as far as smoking, or did you go on to the edibles and stuff instead?
So my caregiver was a veteran, Chapman Dickerson, who was actually a veteran who was my caregiver, who now owns a dispensary here in Massachusetts. And he came to my house with a care package of flower, tinctures, drinks, salve, edibles in this care package, and spent a few hours with me on how I should try to incorporate cannabis into my care. And Chappie saved my life.
How
Like,
kind that was.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I think I know that guy. He did the same thing for my daughter.
Well, now one thing
Yes.
I'm curious about, I know that Patients at a Time had on their website this great library of information, and you could even go there and take part in their study and take part in their education and add credentials to your license. And I was under the impression that was almost mandatory among the nursing community at this point. I'm surprised that you missed all that. It took so long to find it.
It is not mandatory. And I did get my first, wasn't like technically a certification, but at Patients at a Time, I believe it was in 2015, where I did go through the program there. That was the first time I had my first real education for nursing, was there in 2015 in Florida. And after that, I started doing extensive research with cannabis nursing and trying to learn and do as much as I could. In 2014, when I was searching the web, it was Marcy Cooper, a nurse who I found through Mary's Medicinals, who was the one who connected me to Patients Out of Time. And then she was really instrumental, again, in navigating me through the nursing side of things. I did work for years with Marcy Cooper and Heather Manis, and from the Cannabis Nurses Network. And now I'm pretty much more so into research and back to, I work as a psychiatric nurse. My background is geriatric and psychiatric nursing. And I really, really want to continue to advocate from the inside of the medical system. A lot of nurses are stepping away from the bedside and moving into cannabis nursing from consulting or coaching, or kind of outside coming in, trying to educate from the outside in. And I'm really, really dedicated to changing the system from the inside out, because that's
So
where
am
the
I.
problem is.
Yeah, we're allies in that. We always have been. Well, I'm sorry I misplaced the timing that we had.
That's okay.
I remember you coming up to a conference. I just thought it was much
Yeah.
earlier. But, well, we're glad you came. Thank you. And those nurses that you mentioned, folks, I know those women. They're great. They are, all of those women are pioneer nurses. They really are, as is Nique. Well, listen. Let's go to now. You're in 2015. That's 10 years ago.
Yes.
Okay, and now you've just been enlightened. Wow! And just what Al Graham said. Now I got to do something with it. You're already
Exactly.
So, and I know you did. So we're going there. But 10 years ago, you said, "Boy, this is something I've just learned a lot. I've got to go and learn more." How did you learn more and enough to get to the point where you felt you could go to another nurse and teach him or her? How did you learn all that?
So I also got my medical certification in cannabis at the Pacific College of Oriental Medicine back in April of 2020, I believe, was their first graduating class for that certificate program.
Oriental
And
medicine? Oriental medicine?
It was Pacific College of Oriental Medicine was what it was called back when I did the certificate program. There was a location in San Diego and I believe in New York. Now it's Pacific. Yeah, Pacific College of Oriental.
Yeah, it's all right. I just find that very interesting that you went to an Eastern medicine type institution rather than Western. Why did you do that?
That was the first of its kind program available in medical cannabis.
Wow.
So it wasn't my master's or anything. It was just a certificate program. So I wanted to go through that. Also in 2016, after a year or so of fighting for the rights of nurses to use cannabis as medicine, I started to pop positive for nursing interviews on purpose to show that I had a medical card and I was a breast cancer survivor, and I couldn't get hired. So I was like a paycheck away from being homeless. I was living out of my office, and I decided to pack up my bags and head out to California. And so in 2016, I headed out to California with a friend who sent me plane tickets to go out there and learn more about cannabis and get a job in nursing in California. I did have to stop using so I could pass the drug test. So because then even with a medical card, nurses were still not allowed to use cannabis.
Wow.
And I passed my drug test and I started looking into all different types of alternative medicine because cannabis opened up my mind from nursing to really look at spiritual and again, like this perception and different angles of our health that traditional medicine and traditional nursing never taught me. So not only was I doing cannabis, and again, I still had paranoia from the cannabis. So I was taking those programs not only as a nurse, but for myself, because I was really trying to figure out how to microdose my way into a healthy state, because that anxiety and paranoia was real for me. So that was one of my big forms of advocacy too, is talking about the negative aspects of cannabis that I know a lot of pro cannabis people don't like to discuss, but it needs to be discussed because you can microdose your way into a healthy use of cannabis. And people don't understand. Some people think that 10 milligrams is a microdose, but for somebody like me, I'm talking like 2.5 milligrams, sometimes even 1 milligram. So again, that's where I really wanted to try to understand cannabis as medicine. And if it had these benefits for me, and if it's really starting to open up my mind, and it was really starting to benefit my lifelong struggles with chronic suicidality, anxiety, and depression, I was blessed by my second diagnosis with breast cancer because now this plant started to help me understand all these other aspects of my life that traditional therapy and medicine missed.
Wow.
So
now I understand microdosing. We have to microdose here. We have to microdose our information in half-hour sound bites. And I will certainly also tell you that the only bad aspect to cannabis is the high cost. Everything else is just perfect. There's no downside. But we'll talk more about that in the second part of this interview because I want our audience to learn more from you. And I really want everybody to let their friends know how important it is to share cannabis, not only at 420 for recreation, but for medicinal purposes. So I do ask you to make it a point to tune in to check out the second segment of this interview here at Time for Hemp.
that money, yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for him. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation, yeah, it's time for hemp. Well, an acre of hemp makes 20 barrels of oil. No need for pesticides to poison all our soil. People got no food, they got no clothes, they got no rent. Well, it's time for hemp. Throughout Earth's history, hemp has been used, no mystery. Hemp was legal to pay your taxes for more than a century. Check your faxes. The founding fathers make sense to me. It's time to grow hemp legally. Think of all its uses. It's money that's well spent. Right now, no excuses. It's time for hemp. Sustainable green industry, that's our intent. A better place this world will be. It's time for hemp. Fuel and food and clothes and soap, housing, cars, yeah, cars, no joke. Henry Ford built a car of hemp. It's time for us to do it again. People be employed with balanced farming as it's meant. Right now, it's time for hemp. Hemp is a true necessity for the wealth and protection of this country. These are words of Jefferson Thomas. It grew hemp, why not us? It's time to lift the hemp ban. It's time to lift the hemp ban. Yes, we can. I know we can. We can make a difference. Yes, we can. Yes, I know we can. We can work together and lift the hemp ban. Look at all that money. Yeah, the money that they've spent. Take another look and take some time for hemp. Don't cut trees for paper, 'cause it hurts the environment. Stop deforestation. Yeah, it's time for hemp.